Hello, nomads, and welcome to a land far away, where we will be talking about elves and dwarves and fanciful rings and lots of lighting effects and all sorts of cool fancy stuff on the Nomads of Fantasy, a weekly video game and movie podcast where we make a new universe our home every week. We are talking about Lords of the Rings this week. This week, as always, I have with us Mr. Brandon.
I would have gone with you to the end, into the very fires of Mordor.
I was wondering if you're going to give it the little twinge on the Mordor. Well, how he does it there. He always says that.
After watching 4 hours of this shit, you kind of learn how they do their
Mordor
pronunciation.
It's been so many years of. I mean, I was looking at it and I was like, "Wow, holy shit! This movie came out 23 years ago."
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that makes me
crazy
feel
to think about.
Really old. But
yeah, I like how you say "as always" because, I am here. We're actually down for this. Is the first time we've only had two of us, and which is kind of fitting with my quote because we lost Boromir.
We left him behind. We let him go over the falls.
AKA Eric.
Yeah, Eric's on paternity leave.
Paternity leave from the podcast.
Spitting out kids, making new nerds to raise. Love more Lord of the Rings. So, Eric, we wish you well. Apologies ahead of time for any audio, video technical difficulties that we may encounter.
Oh yeah, Dave's running the show.
Even speaking, I have a hard enough time just getting the words out of my mouth.
So far, so good.
Yeah, so far, so good. We'll see. We might have been talking during that intro, but we'll get to there. So yeah, it's episode 129. This is a big topic we wanted to hit not because Eric was out, because I don't know, we've been talking about it for a while, and Eric's not as big into the Lord of the Rings as we are, so
right.
It's good to let us just nerd out for a little bit.
When I'm not a big in Harry Potter, so when I was out, on a family vacation, you guys did Harry Potter, and
absolutely.
Yeah.
So this one, I mean, we're not going to get too fancy with it because I think everybody's kind of seen this movie at some point or another. It's a kind of a cultural icon, but we did put the feelers out on the internet to see if anybody else out there had anything to say. Brandon, I'm gonna throw it over to you for Eric's usual section.
Yeah, sure. I handle the social media, and I did get a response and I don't know, I'm not really liking X Twitter anymore, but I asked, what do you think of Fellowship, specifically the Fellowship of the Ring? And the Psych Effect pod replied, not as good as the other two. So, boy, oh boy, if you are listening to this episode, Dave and I are going to have some words.
Yeah, I've been kind of thinking about that, where it ranks in the, I don't know, I guess in this trilogy. Because we kind of all rank them all separately anyways, but
not to keep the social long, we'll get into the meat. But in our Discord, if you go to thenomadsoffantasy.com/Discord, or just go to our website and you'll see a purple button right there. It says Discord. Totally join us. We'd love to have you there. Talking about anything from Star Wars to Jaws to anime to a video game, whatever. But Driving D-Van had this to say, and this is a bit of a long one, so I knew nothing about Tolkien at all when I saw this movie. A friend and I literally just picked the movie with the longest runtime at the local theater, and suffice to say, we're blown away.
That's quite a choice.
The only problem is, we had no idea it was a trilogy, so we're super bummed when the movie just ends with Frodo and Sam cresting that mountain. Luckily, the sequels were very much worth the waiting for. I think this that's maybe my favorite kind of movie experience. Walk in completely blind and end up absolutely loving it. And I had the same experience with this and The Matrix. I had no idea what I was getting into, and completely blew me away. And these are like The Fellowship of the Ring is one of my top 10 movies of all time. Dare I say top 5. It is a movie that I love so much. But there's one more.
Love.
Yep, one more. So Nicky Pinecone, who was a guest, he has his own podcast, Nicky Pinecone. He says it redefined what a fantasy movie could be. And by God,
That is very true too.
very
Because
true.
think about the time that it came out, 2001, and Steven was saying like he didn't have to wait long. He had to. It was worth the wait in between them. These came out 2001, 2002, 2003, which is kind of insane for the scope of them.
Beautiful. Just for like fans to get right, exactly. And we'll get. I think most people know that they filmed them all at the same time, but then they started releasing them one after the other because they could produce the other two and work on them while the one's out, and then they had, which is incredible. What good planning.
It kind of yeah. It's
Yeah,
kind of unfathomable the amount of work and the amount of people that put time and effort into this.
right.
If you start to see some of the behind the scenes stuff, it gets there's so much going on,
So
so many different wheels turning. The fact that it turned
especially
out
when you
as
see
good
the
as
movie
it
so
is.
many times. Yeah, you see the movie so many times. You're just like, well, I know the story and I know all the beats, but you're just looking at the production and
Mm-hmm.
and it is insane that it came out when it did and looks. I think it holds up, but again, we'll get into that.
Yeah,
Do you have the next couple episodes coming up before we get into
I
the main
do.
conversation? Okay.
Yeah, we were going to do Rogue One coming up for Star Wars Day towards the end of the month. So
Okay.
we'll get this one out towards mid-month and towards the end of the month, right in time for Star Wars Day. We're hitting up the Rogue Uno to kind of revisit that one because you and me are both. I think we both need a rewatch on that one.
Right.
We
Eric went
we
back
both
and
have our
saw it, and he
issues.
said after watching Andor, he appreciated it more. And
I would think so because
you
a
know,
little more rounded, I guess you'd say.
yeah,
So, and then after that, we're getting into the Fallout TV show, and I might not be able to hold myself. I may have to do an emergency hit the big red button podcast at some point just to get it out there because there's
but how's that
so many good
working though? How
things.
many episodes are you just going to talk about making a quick review episode
Yeah,
for the first couple,
we'll
something like
see.
that, or a reaction
We'll
to
see.
the?
I may drag you two in front of a camera and just force feed maybe the first 2 or 3 episode quick
Sure.
reaction or something like that. So
As you're wearing a Fallout sweatshirt as we record this, I'm
Brotherhood
sure
of
you are
Steel
excited.
behind me. I've got a
Yep.
Hit
Okay.
Boy up there. I'm in deep.
We're in a new era of video game adaptations. I think we're finally getting good adaptations.
They can be good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Who
okay.
knew? So all right. Well, let's take a break here real quick, and because I mean, you and me could just sit here and spout off for hours on this stuff. So, want a
Right.
quick timeout. Let's refresh our drinks, take a leak, and we will start our long trek to the lands of Mordor right after this. We are back, I think. Thank you for joining us on this long quest as we we travel over the river, through the woods to Uncle Sauron's house. We go.
Up the mountain.
Yep.
But then it's too crazy, so we have to backtrack
And
a
then we'll
little
skip a
bit,
little bit
and then
this way.
then we'll go onto
It's
the mountain.
one of the cool things that I did find is in Lord of the Rings how far they actually walked throughout the whole movie or whatever.
The trilogy
Yeah,
or
on
the
their
Fellowship.
way to Mordor, essentially
Okay.
the whole thing. They start in
Hmm.
Nebraska. They walk over almost, I'm guessing, to Ohio. That's when they get through the mountains or whatever, and then they cut south down through looks like almost to Tennessee, and then they cut over a little bit, and then they end up walking down through Georgia to Florida, essentially to get to Mount Doom. So that is a Forrest Gump epic ass hike that they are taking through through these movies when you think about it as being that long.
Okay, so I had this question because clearly we have watched this movie,
Yeah, 1,000 times.
and a lot of people have seen this movie.
Thousands.
Um, this is not going to be a. Oh, here's what it's about. We assume you know what this movie is about,
No.
but let's get into the movie. And for starters, I've seen this movie so many times. I'm looking at this map, and I don't even know. Do they know the rest of the world? Is it like a globe that's like they know the rest of the planet, or have they not explored that part at
I'm
all? Like, have the
still
elves not gone that far?
figuring this
Like,
out because I'm in the middle of reading the Cimmerillion, and
yeah,
that has different map parts when they go to Valinor. That's like way off in the Rings of Power. How they got to sail across the sea to get to
Is
that
it
other
one
place.
continent, or are there other continents? You know,
I think it's just
on
Middle
this,
Earth is just Middle Earth, and then over there
we don't know.
they have like the heaven, like the sacred lands where all the
Okay.
sacred people go, where they live
Because
with
I was thinking about
their
this because
god.
like, is it like Game of Thrones where um George R.R. Martin doesn't show you the rest of the planet because it hasn't been explored. They don't know. They've
Maybe.
tried exploring Sothros or whatever it is,
Hmm.
and they've flown dragons over, and like they kept going and going, like this is ridiculous. So they just came back.
Yeah,
Um, they don't know how far north goes either with the snow and all that stuff. So like,
too
oh,
well
that's really
true.
cool, and I bet that's what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I remember in Lord of the Rings, like the Risk games would come out, and they would only go up to a certain amount, and then as more seasons came out, they released different versions with like bigger versions of
Okay,
the maps and stuff. Kind of cool.
but you've seen the Hobbit trilogy, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, all of
Um,
them.
yeah, and I'll be honest, I actually enjoy them, and I
Good.
think people are being haters. They're acting like they're bad. I get it; they are inferior to the first trilogy, but come on. So is Star Wars. Like that first trilogy is why it's such a big fucking thing. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand the Lord of the Rings was a big thing.
Hmm.
Like Zeppelin's had songs about it or had lyrics about with from there, and we've seen like the animated cartoon in the late '70s or whatever.
Oh
I
yeah.
get it; it's been around, but when Peter Jackson made this trilogy, I mean, it just was game
Well,
changing. So,
like
anyways,
even just Tolkien's books like helped influence so much of you know
yeah,
video games, Dungeons and
Dungeon and
Dragons,
Dragons.
everything like
Yeah,
everything fantasy kind of all has its roots kind of tucked back into
right.
the Lord of the
And it
Rings
all started with
books.
The Hobbit. The Hobbit was a kid's book that was incredible, and then they're like, let's add on to it. So then he kept going with it. You know, he's just made this huge world, and I think those Hobbit movies that came out, I think they were still caught. They still captured the magic of that world with those actors, that music, and I just was like, this is good. I don't know the hate, so I just want to put that out there. I'm not a hater. I think they're just fine. And here's the thing: I didn't expect this. I have not seen The Fellowship of the Ring in a few years, but I had rewatched the Hobbit trilogy with my family,
Hmm.
and watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and anytime you see old Bilbo and his acting with Gandalf, those scenes hit way harder now because we've been on that adventure. And if you watch the extended cut of those, that's like 9 hours you spent with this character, and it's just and when they reference so much stuff in this movie to previous events, which I love. You know, again,
Hmm.
Star Wars, Game of Thrones do this, but I just thought it was so cool to like know because we were on that adventure and him reminiscing. There's a lot of that in the extended version of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And like when you watch the Fellowship of the Ring, that opening act is like an hour long before they even get to Rivendell, I think.
It
It's a
is
lot of that
quite
stuff
a
from The
journey,
Hobbit.
and they sprinkle in a lot of extra scenes, but it's not like you're putting in like giant chunks of scenes that were missing from it. It's usually like sprinkled in like dialogue here and like a little bit more interaction with Bilbo when he shows up at his house, or the one joke that they have in like joke in these movies, like Bilbo in the very beginning at his party. There's a lady walking in with like 12 kids, and you go, it's like, are all these yours? And she's like, yeah. And he goes, you've had a mighty productive winter. And he looks
Oh,
directly at the camera, and I'm like,
oh, did he look
whoa.
at the
He
camera?
looks directly at the
Oh,
camera, like referencing. It's kind of almost like a slapstick joke, but that's just a little bit of like extra
yeah,
character and flavor that they put into the extended editions, which I love.
right.
I could eat that stuff up.
Isn't it crazy how Peter Jackson can do campy and an epic at this like movie at the same time? Because some of these things are the most epic things that I have ever seen.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I went into this movie not knowing or expecting anything, and then the New Line Cinema logo comes up with that like elvish music from
Oh
like
yeah.
Enya or whatever, just like that sound, whatever that Howard Shore sound that he painted in this movie. I was just like, oh, that sounds good. And then
The
she
whole
starts
theme is so
talking,
good.
yeah, and she does that introduction, the exposition just kind of catches us up, but like we're seeing it happen, and it's like poetry, and it sounds so cool. And I was like, wow, this is so epic. But then they'll show Sauron, and it looks like a B movie out of nowhere. It'll be like flames, just like, yes, I've got the club with it, with the ring on it. You know, it's just like, and it's just like the camera work is just flat, and it looks like
Some of them,
Mighty
that's
Morphin Power Rangers or something like
partly, I
that.
think that's CG, because some of the CG hasn't aged as well as I
No,
would
but it
hope.
looked weird then. But he's done campy movies, so I just thought that was really cool how he can blend campiness with an epic, perfectly shot, framed
10,000 elves going to
scene.
battle and like
Hmm.
giant war scenes, and yeah, this
Hmm.
movie does have everything. It's got its little love story in it. It's got a couple jokes here and there, but they're few and far between. But um, and then it's a lot of like character building and storytelling. Really, there's a lot of different cool adventures that happen on the way from Tennessee down to Florida as you're walking your way down there.
I get, yeah, yeah, and I think I'm blown away by how many scenes they have in this movie because in my head when I picture the trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I always think the Fellowship of the Ring is the small movie,
Mm-hmm.
and the other two are way more epic. And I will say they are more epic as far as the grandeur of the fights. They're
Mm-hmm.
huge. It's like massive, but it's still following key like the same 5, 8 characters that you care about, and you don't want them to die. But the Fellowship of the Ring, while there is no grand army of no-namers that we don't care about, we still have a lot of characters, dude. We have 4 hobbits. We have a wizard. We have 2 humans, a dwarf, and an elf. Right? That's 9 members of the Fellowship of the Ring that we are watching and rooting for, and don't want to die, and learning about
Yeah,
them and their
Boromir,
what?
we could have done without Boromir. He's fine.
Are you fucking?
I'm just
Boromir's my
kidding.
favorite. What
I kind of
are you
wonder
talking
like
about?
what if Boromir would have like survived, and there's a lot of like what if Tolkien questions that I always want to wonder. What if they took a different path? What if they tried to go down to Isengard? Like, all sorts of
Oh,
crazy
right.
shit. What if Gandalf took that fucking ring and said peace and just decided to become Lord of Middle Earth,
Right.
Um
Yeah.
part
But
part
either
of
way, I don't know. I just like their fights, like their moments.
yeah.
It was so cool because you would see literally 9 characters fighting a cave troll at the same time. This is like if you play video games, you played video games. There's like maybe there's a 2-player game mode. Like, oh, this is cool. I get to play with a buddy. And then like, oh, then maybe there's a 4-player game mode. That's really cool. But when was the last time you played a fantasy video game where there was like 8 of you or 9 of you or 10, a dozen of you fighting one monster? And I just think it's not as big as the other two, but the Fellowship of the Ring has some amazing, epic fights that still hold up. The Balrog,
Well, and the
all
other
that stuff happens in this movie.
Two Towers of Return of the King stand on the shoulders of what Fellowship of the Ring, like the foundation
Started,
that it sets, because you
yeah,
can't just jump into something epic like this. You think like Two Towers
yeah,
starts with Sam and Frodo, like immediately they're running into Gollum. Immediately you're getting like the Gandalf Balrog fight like over again, and
that's right,
then you
yeah,
got Aragon. So that's happening in like the first 20 minutes of the movie, like not
right,
even. And so
yeah.
Fellowship, you got to have
Th-
that. You got to have that build to
yeah,
actually
it's got
care
a lot
about
of
the
building,
characters.
exactly,
So that's
and like
part of the reason why I loved it.
yeah, and it's like it's almost like why we even have this podcast because this is like up there with Star Wars. It's just like talking about this world, right? Oh my god. Like it is like the coolest world ever. I just want to live here. I
There's
was thinking
so
about this. I'm like,
much.
man, Rivendell is so cool. I want to live there. But then they get to the Wood Elves, and I'm like, I don't know, that's fucking cool too, man.
Big
So
sweet
I was
ass
like,
tree houses, like
yes.
then
Their
whoever.
style is really cool.
Yeah, we should probably look this up. But whoever did like the storyboards and the art design for this movie is, you know, they gotta be, you know, greats in their field, because some of the scenes, like you said, the fight with the cave troll and the storyboards that they set up when they're running through Moria, and you're getting these big long shots of them running across, and they look like little tiny. You just see Gandalf's staff like lit up as they're running through the main place. Like those scenes are like burned into
Burned in, dude. I
they're
know.
like fantasy gold. Like you can't do better than that. So like
Right.
I don't know
With
like
the
how you
music.
ever do how you ever redo
Dum,
some of these.
dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum.
Yeah.
Dude, I
The
gets me
whole
every time.
Balrog scene, like that is so epic and so like that's when you think of a fantasy movie, like you think of shit like that. That's
Can,
makes it so great.
can it makes me also want to like touch on the casting again. I've seen fantasy movies and I'm just like I don't get the casting. I don't get this person does not feel like they're in this era or this world. Like I remember in the late 90s there was a Dungeons and Dragons movie. I just remember the trailer and the cast. I'm like, who are these people? And they don't look. They have like I don't know. They had like earrings and like t-shirts or something. I don't know. They looked like they were not in a fantasy world. I mean, you can have earrings and all that shit, but it's just the way that the style. I don't know. But this movie, I was like, oh, they look like the
And,
thing that they're trying to
and
be.
it's a lot of
Like
like
that guy from
unknowns.
yeah, the guy from Indiana Jones, I can tell by his voice, is a dwarf, and he looks like a dwarf. I don't know who this Orlando Bloom is,
Yeah.
but he's a very handsome elf. You know,
This was like his
Elrond
first
is.
movie. Like that
Yeah, I
he's
think it was
jumping
like one
into.
of his first. Yeah,
It's on
yeah, it's great.
IMDb. He's got a couple TV shows and then
Oh,
Fellowship
okay.
of the Ring. Like
Yeah,
boom.
but you got
Like
like
he was fresh
Magneto.
face.
You had Magneto. You recognize him. He's Gandalf. Crushes it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely crushes it. Like I could not imagine seeing anyone else play this role. I'm sure he could. I'm just saying. Um, you got Elijah Wood. He was definitely a child actor growing up. He was always in big movies. So just seeing him getting this role, I was like, I'm behind this. Sean Astin
Sean
was a
Astin,
pleasant
yeah.
surprise.
Well, because
Sean
he's
Astin,
always
man,
been
one of my
he's
faves. I
fit
love that
so
guy.
perfectly
It's
like
what,
that lovable Samwise role. Like he was kind of the glue that was holding
he
a lot of the
really
Hobbit
is.
scenes together.
A lot of emotion coming from that actor, even though he's the dumb one or dim-witted one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then the other two hobbits, Merry and Pippin, they're fantastic, unknown guys, and they crushed their roles. They were great. Their comedic timing was very good.
Did you
Yeah,
mention
all of them.
Vigo?
And Boromir, was that?
You
Oh,
mentioned
yeah,
Vigo
the
Mortensen.
humans.
Yeah,
Yeah, Vigo.
and he's been around for a while doing stuff, but like this was the one of the main ones that I
Dude, he's so
remember him
cool.
from. When you think back, and don't forget Andy Serkis, like as Gollum.
Oh,
Like
Gollum, barely in this one, but yes,
yeah, this is true,
yes.
but he crushes it. And when you go and watch some of the behind the scenes stuff on this, like how long they filmed for this movie, and like
Yeah.
how tight knit this cast got together, like they're
Oh,
literally
dude,
like
they got
family.
tattoos of this. Yes,
Like
yes, and
they
that
live with each other for almost like a year, year plus of just
in
going out
New
and
Zealand,
filming. Yeah, like you don't
dude,
nobody else. It's just
incredible
kind of
experience. What a gift.
and like some of the sets they're like riding helicopters up mountains together to go film one scene, and then
My
another
God.
scene they're going to film Gollum. And I saw a thing in behind the scenes where it had snowed the night before and there was snow all over, and they're like, well fuck, we can't have snow in this Gollum scene, it doesn't make sense. They ended up bringing in all the industrial lights from the set and like giant like 10-foot wide fans to like blow the heat from the lights on the snow. They had 3 different fire departments there, all just like spraying down the area. Like the amount of people that had to go in to like put together this one scene of Gollum like flipping through a stream to try and catch a fish. And
Okay.
there's Andy Serkis in his like padded suit as he's like flopping around in the rocks and just like there's so much that went into it, and it went together so perfectly. I don't know if it could ever
Good looking
happen
movie.
again.
I don't know how they got that from their head as a big team with the way they did it and get it out there, and such, especially when there was no one else really doing a fantasy like this, So they did an amazing. They really set the bar. Like from here on out, this is at least what you have to do. You
To
have
be
to
great,
to
yes.
be an epic fantasy. This is what you kind of have to do. You got to have a killer soundtrack, amazing cast, believable. The production was really good. It was a lot of mixed practical effects, like using illusions and stuff like that to kind of make the scale, like the sense of
The
scale was
depths of
done very well
field
with camera and
stuff, and
depth of
like
field. Yep.
how
Yep.
they like if you see a hobbit from like the waist up, that's probably the actor. But if you see like a hobbit getting carried or a hobbit walking in the distance, that's probably not one of them. It's it's a little person, and they had
Well, a
like
lot of
these
them,
prosthetic
yeah, with the
masks on and
masks.
stuff.
Yes, yeah,
So
yeah, and you can kind of tell, but those shots are so quick that it doesn't take you out of it. But
yeah,
you know,
or the ones where they're in
whenever
the
they're doing a
boats.
far shot, they, yes,
But speaking of shots, like there some of the shots that Peter Jackson comes up with in this movie are just
creative.
incredible. The use
Hmm.
of like close-ups for like when Gandalf is in there, the use of suspense when they're in the dark, when Frodo's coming back into the dark house and there's shadows everywhere and Gandalf just pops the fuck up. Is it secret? Is it safe? Like
Oh, dude, yes.
there's
I love that. It's not. There's no action really after like the intro and when from Galadriel, but other than that, it's like you're hanging out in the Shire, and we're
oh
just gonna
yeah.
do some world building and start meeting some of these characters. But there are some beautiful shots, or just creative shots, I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And yes, I like that. It like the Gandalf comes out of nowhere. Where's the ring?
Jesus, you
You
creepy
know.
old man just hiding in my house. What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, but
Uh,
like just how the camera walks around the Shire and sets up like this is a small building for
mhm.
like a normal sized person, but for these little guys, you know, so they
I mean,
just make you feel like, yeah, I would bump my head in there too. And Gandalf's like fairly tall; he's probably like
that
6 foot,
that
maybe.
one is a legit head bump too when he turns around from the thing and bonks his head on the
Oh,
thing.
really?
That's an actual like head bump from Sir Ian. There's a
Okay.
couple of different like things, like when Aragon goes to hit the knife away after when he's fighting with the Uruk-hai at the end. Like that was a legit thing that happened, and there's all these cool little behind the scenes, like did you know facts about this movie. It's so rich with all
Okay,
those
tell
kind of
me.
things.
I don't know if you know this. This is very specific, but I've seen this movie so many times, and I always wonder if this is accidental or real. Um, in the opening fight when Elrond and the army is about to fight the orcs or whatever or
Yeah,
Saruman's army, and he's like "Vanity!" whatever, and everybody like and all the swords like come up,
yeah.
and then they start shooting arrows, and
It's
then
like
an arrow
whizzing
like
by
goes
their
by
heads.
his face, and he just like blinks a little, not barely, but his hair moves,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, obviously they didn't shoot a real arrow by him, but like, how I don't know.
Just a
Was that
little.
an act, like did something happen and they kept it in, or like it just
No,
felt very
I think that's all. Like
they
they're
wrote that in.
the elves are
Somebody
so
will shoot and then
perfectly
it'll be so close. Yeah, it's yeah,
the
so
elves are so
perfect.
perfect art. Like Legolas doesn't miss one shot this entire movie. Every single
True. He's
shot he
so
takes
cool, dude.
hits.
Legolas is so cool.
I
Yeah,
he doesn't
he's the
have a
coolest elf
ton
ever in
like
movies.
through the movies.
The
Like
stuff he does.
him and
But Gimli?
Gimli. Yes, thank you. Like they become like sidekicks for a chunk of the movie where they're just kind of following Aragon around and
Yeah,
helping him
yeah.
out. Like
They
they
have
play a
more of a
lesser role than some of the other
right.
fellowships,
But
but
they're all action, you know. Gimli less so. I think he has the least amount in this movie. Just there for kind of jokes and just whatever.
oh yeah.
But Legolas just I remember that one shot in the end scene being blown away. It's like when he's like shooting arrow after arrow after arrow
Mm-hmm.
after arrow of all these guys in that big fight at the end. It's just like how many this is so cool that he's doing this, you know? And it reminds me of like the first Avengers movie where like we've been building up to see all the Avengers finally meet. And then there's this like scene where they all fight and the camera goes around from character to character to character and you're just given this extended action scene that you've been wanting to see in your mind for a long time. And seeing Legolas because if you watch this movie, you'll notice there's a lot of jump cuts. You know, you don't the actions they cut scenes very quick.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody do a move and then they'll cut. But this one shot specifically of Legolas just shooting arrow after
It's
arrow,
like yeah, five
you
or
know.
six in a row.
And I'm sure there's some CG or magic in there, but just seeing that shot
It always reminds me of
after
the
all the things
PlayStation
that have
2
happened
game.
in this movie, I just, huh? Yeah.
Reminds me of
Oh,
the
dude,
PlayStation 2 game. Those were really good.
those video games from the yes, I know. I want to play them so bad on like Unreal Engine 5 on like a modern day
Yes.
rig. Just
Uh,
what would these games look like? Please make it
it would
happen.
be beautiful. So I had questions. We were talking about earlier in the movie. So
Uh,
when Elrond and they cut off Sauron's finger and they go to throw it in Mountain Doom, Isildur is standing there and
yeah.
he's like, "No, fuck it, I'm keeping the ring for myself."
Why didn't
Elrond,
Elrond just jump up and push him?
yeah, Elrond, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like,
Shoot an arrow at his leg and
you
take it from
gotta
him.
you gotta either kill Isildur or like you just let him go, and then so he does let him go, yada yada. Isildur goes back. He's trying to go back to Gondor or whatever. Ends up getting jacked by some orcs or whatever. Elrond still knew he had the ring, and he knew that it was out there. So why didn't he just go and find it? Elrond, dude, you're a
Right.
wise
Right.
old elf, but you're fucking up. You're not following through
I'm with
with
you on
your
that.
responsibilities. Because he could probably
After
feel the evil of the ring and kind of do his put a hand out and metal detect it for a little bit and figure out where it is eventually. But he knew it was
Oh,
out
dude, when
there.
people go invisible in this movie, they act like they teleported. If there's a difference. Like there's a scene like in the later on in the movie where Frodo is being attacked by Boromir. Boromir's starting to succumb to the evil and the pull of the dark of the ring. And he tried to get it from him, and Frodo puts the ring on, and Boromir's like, oh, "Where'd he go?" I'm like, "Dude,
You should
he's
see
still in your
footsteps
fucking
walking
hands."
away. Like you
Yeah,
should
but he
see.
like
Yeah,
he
well,
actually
he kicks
like
him and
whoa.
then runs away.
Yeah, and then it
But
happened in the bar. Like the
mm-hmm.
ring like flies in the air and it like lands on his hand or something like that. It was a beautiful shot. I love that shot. But then it's just like they act like, whoa, where'd it go? I'm
Nobody
like,
like steps him or pours a beer on him or kicks him while he's on the
yeah,
ground or something like that. I wonder
yeah. And then some.
when like during Bilbo's party, he used the ring at his party. And that's when Sauron was already back and the Black Riders are like just about to head out or whatever. And but he doesn't see what Frodo sees. Like Frodo puts it on the first time and like oh shit, he sees the fucking eye and
Whoa,
everything gets gray and all that shit
right.
happens. But that doesn't happen with Bilbo like in the very beginning either, which is weird. I don't know. These are things that you think about when you've seen
Or he
this movie
ignores it.
like for the
He's like, oh,
500th
I
time.
see. He was like, yes, I know. I got
I,
a birthday to
I
celebrate.
saw you
Shut up.
too. Leave me the fuck alone.
I know.
Cranky old
Again
Bilbo.
with this. Right.
It
Yeah.
must be the pipe weed. I swear to God that is probably some early 70s like marijuana strain that they're all ripping on.
I forget how much pot is in this movie. It's funny. There is even a lot. I had to rewind
Because
it.
it is pot, right?
Yeah, dude. So come on, they it's definitely pot, and if you watch the extended scenes, you see more of that scenes where
Yeah.
people are smoking up and stuff like that. But
There's
there's a line when Gandalf
yes.
starts
Thank you.
putting some stuff together. He's like, "All right, I gotta go see my boss, who is Sauron.
Go
I'm
see my
sorry,
boss.
Saruman." So he goes to see Saruman, and he's saying like, "Saruman, I don't know if you know this, but the Dark Lord is back, and there's a ring. The ring is out there, and we have to like fucking destroy it, or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like, I think this ring or whatever it is. Like he starts putting things together, and Saruman's like, he calls it the Hobbit's
The halfling's
leaf.
leaf. The halfling leaf.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
love
I
of the
just wrote in my
halfling
note.
leaf has
When
clouded your
Gandalf
mind.
gets to Saruman, he gets scolded for smoking too much Hobbit pot. Yeah, because he says you've been smoking too much of the Hobbit's leaf. Or yeah, dude. And it's just like he knows he's a stoner. You know,
It-
I was smoking for 12,000 years. You know,
like it's
like,
weird
damn. You know,
reading the Silmarillion because Gandalf is like I don't know if he is one of the I forget what they call them, the Valar
a
or
newer,
whatever.
a Velar, a newer, and yeah, right,
One of
yes,
those guys that like
a
comes to Middle
new.
Earth to like set shit straight. Um but like
Well, yeah,
even
he's like there's a whole bunch of them. There's the
yeah.
dark ones and there's the good ones, and like the good ones are the bad ones are like Balrogs and stuff like that, but the good ones are like Gandalf,
Well,
Radagast,
Balrog's just a monster, but
and
yeah, Radagast and some of the other wizards
and
and
then the ones that we never see, the blue wizards or whatever, the two blue wizards that
yeah, give us an Amazon Prime series about them.
they might. I mean, we're getting a second
See,
season of Rings of Power, so
see what the blue dudes are up to.
please, just this is a world I would be happy to see. I mean, if Star Wars gets to do a fucking TV show about Andor and
Mm-hmm.
Kenobi and shit, then like, come on, give us some wizards.
Stories from the Prancing Pony. That's all we want. Just let us hang out there for a
Okay,
while.
I don't even know what that is, but all right.
That's the bar in Bree that they go to.
Oh,
Prancing
okay,
Pony in the
sweet.
village of Bree.
Oh, okay.
It
Yeah,
makes,
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah.
but knowing that Gandalf is like one of those newer people like that, it kind of makes him like a fantasy Jesus, where he's just like he dies and he's reborn as like Gandalf the White
The
motherfucker.
whites.
I'm back,
Yep.
bitches. Which
Dude, okay, can we? All right, so again, I watched this movie, did not know anything about it.
yeah.
There's 9 characters. This movie's a masterpiece. I'm really invested. The Balrog is this epic thing. Like this, just the build up from that epic cave troll fight to like this light glowing and like making all the orcs like run away or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and or goblins, whatever they were, and then the light is getting closer and closer. Then the fire shows up, and then the Balrog reveals itself. I'm like, this is so cool, dude. And they're running away, and then and it's like Gandalf is just like, hold on a second, we're not getting out of here. I'm gonna have to stand my ground. And dude, when that scene happened, and he screams like, "You shall not die." I was like, that is like a scene. That is a scene that I will remember the rest of my life. Like,
mm-hmm.
what is that? In the moment, I just remember like, this is so epic. And then the Balrog falls,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, yeah. As it's falling, the music cuts out, and Gandalf takes that sigh of relief. And as he turns around, that whip just comes back and grabs him by the ankle and pulls him. And the music comes in, and he just looks at Frodo and the rest of them, and he just like says, he says like, "Fly, you
Fly, you
fools," or whatever.
fools.
Yeah, and they do that. They do this a lot, but the slow motion like reaction or scream.
Yeah.
Oh, to really
It
get the.
happens.
But then he's like there, and Aragorn's like holding him back. He's like, "There's nothing we can do. This guy's gone, and we might get whipped too if we go or whatever." So Gandalf slips and appears to die,
No upper
and
body
then the
strength
music
on
does
this
that,
wizard.
and then the music does that like to the slow motion. It does that elf that
Mm-hmm.
and dude, it was like the perfect note to hit me right here, and I was just like, the Gandalf was like one of the coolest characters in this movie, and did he just die fighting that thing, and that's how he's gonna die? And I was like, oh my god, we lost one. And I usually when you see a movie like there's deaths and it can be sad, but it's usually like the main character. There's like so many characters in this movie, and I'm already
Mm-hmm.
attached to this old guy, and it's like halfway into the movie, and I'm like, Gandalf, we spent so much time with this character and he's dead, dude. I don't know. And then Aragorn's like, get up. And then Boromir, who's like the troublemaker, the guy that's like kind of like keep an eye on
He's
him.
a
He's
hard
just like,
ass.
give him a second, would you? For the love of God. Or, like, he's like, yeah, he's human. He feels it. Like, so just masterclass storytelling of action to like
Here's a
being
question.
sad and emotions.
The Balrog has these giant. He's a giant winged flame thing or whatever.
Like brute. Yeah.
Can he not fly?
I don't know if those were flying wings.
Are they
It
just?
does
Is it
not
just
look
for
like those
show
wings would
wings?
work. It's more for like if you breathe fire, they probably flap it at you or something like that. And maybe like a chicken, or maybe chickens can fly a little bit, but like lets you kind of hover and get to other areas, like kind of Batman. He can't fly, but he can go from place to
Okay.
place.
I was when he fell. I'm like, wait a minute. Why doesn't he just fly his ass back up and go kill all these bitches? But Balrogs aren't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably aren't the same either. He was hiding in a hole. But it is cool that they like. I'm starting to know like when Legolas says he fell into shadow and he was killed by a Balrog of Melkor or whatever like that, or Morgoth. And I'm like, wait a minute, I know who Morgoth is now. Like,
Okay, why don't you hit me up with some of this? Sauron. I was looking at Melkor,
it's the
Margoth.
same person.
Okay, now how high up is this? Is this basically like
This is like
Lucifer from Christianity? Like he's like the one of the top angels that turned evil?
essentially, yeah. He's like the evil angel, and Sauron was like his lieutenant. So he was assistant to the regional manager of
So we never get to
elves.
see Morgoth
No, he's
in
he's
any of these.
before the Rings of Power, I think. Like even before that
But
was
he
when
doesn't
happened.
die. He's a god. So
He
is
does.
he?
I think so at a certain point. I'm not done reading the books, but
Oh, okay. So
I
he might
think
not exist, but Sauron still lives on in his
yeah, he's
fighting his cause.
carrying on the duties. He was promoted to regional manager after Morgoth
Oh,
died.
okay.
He's just, hanging out doing his evil thing. They kind of wear like the same dress code and you know, do kind of the same evil things. They both like making orcs and making baddies.
All right. What about Orcai? What do you know about Orcai? I always get confused. Like, there's
I
goblins.
think that's
They
just
live
what
in caves.
Saruman
They're their own
named.
thing. There's orcs. And
Yep.
orcs usually are like an evil army that were created from orcs were created
Elves.
from the dead, like old elves that got converted into these monsters of hate and torture and stuff like that. But Orokai are Saruman's army, and he goes under the trees and digs up and he creates.
He
Explain
makes
that part.
I
I
don't
was,
know. I don't know how magic works, but
but he said,
he makes new beefier orcs essentially. I think that's all they are. It's just
okay.
beefier dudes. Like you know,
How did he even make them?
he's got the magic. He probably rubbed his staff on it while they were in their little egg sack and made him
Okay.
angrier. I don't know, something like that.
Okay. All right.
I didn't ask that question. I don't have that on my list of
Yeah.
things.
Saruman, what a bitch.
Yeah, he is kind of a little pussy. Like you know, he kind of
Dude,
just
you're starting to lose, so you switch
yeah,
sides?
he just crumbled and like kind of jumped ship essentially. He couldn't take the heat. He saw which way the wind was blowing and he just jumped ship and said fuck it. So, I mean, if the Ents didn't show up, like he probably would have been fine. But I guess that's a story for another podcast.
All right. So this movie,
Mhm.
I know we've gushed a lot, but it's one of the few
It's
movies that
perfect.
can get me to can get me to tear up. Teared up 3 times in this movie.
3 times?
3 times, not a lot, but just like one of those like you take the finger and thumb and just kind of like wipe them away real
Mhm.
quick, just from the corners of your eyes. Yeah, got a little heavy on the mists in the
Okay.
eyes there.
Let me hear these 3.
So the first one is kind of lame, but again, because I like the hobbits and I'm attached to the Bilbo Gandalf character bonding from that movie, it carries over now into this new trilogy. So there's a scene early on when Bilbo doesn't want to give the ring to Gandalf, so he's just
Mhm.
like, "You want it for yourself," and all that stuff. And Gandalf does that thing where the lights get dark, he's like, and he just
I'm here to help you.
and I'm here to help you. Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, Gandalf," and just the way he cries, I'm like, man, these two old fucking guys can act. This is
They're old buddies
genuine.
like, yeah.
I feel so sad when he cowers like that, and it's just so like sad. So then that always gets me. The Boromir death gets me
Really?
every time, and I know it's gonna happen. But
My
when he's just
captain,
like,
my king,
I would, I would follow you, my
my lord, my
captain,
captain, my
my
king.
yeah, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't. I was just like, this fucking movie. Um, and I think the other one was when Bilbo and Frodo have their moment when Bilbo attacks him
Yeah.
and he cries
You feel
again.
bad for the old guy. Like
Yeah, I'm a sucker
he
for
doesn't
dying
know.
men and crying men, I guess.
Dude, I
But
will say like the end of Return of the King, like the fucking
oh, you
that is
shall not.
there.
You bow to no man. I
Oh
was just
no,
like, both palms are in my eyes. I was like,
no, it's the
oh
one where
god.
when they
Oh.
go Frodo goes off to go to the west and Sam gets married and he's got kids.
Oh yeah.
And like everybody's life's moving on and Frodo's like there's no more life here left for me and he goes with Gandalf to sail away to the enchanted lands or
Mm-mm.
whatever they are. Like, oh my
Yeah,
god, like
because
that
hanging out with
is
Bilbo.
huh?
Yeah,
He's
because
yeah, I
hanging out with
mean,
Bilbo.
but it's just like it's like graduation where you're like moving on from a part of your life and you have to leave your friends
Yeah, it's true.
behind and you know, they've still got their lives to live and my life's pretty much fucked now. So I that one gets me bad. This movie, yeah, the Boromir, yeah, I could see a little bit, but I
Because
just
he
see
had such a character
I see
arc where
Sean
he was.
Bean.
Oh yeah, great actor though. Like
Yeah.
he does. His range of acting is so good. He's very, strong. But then he'll also be like fragile. Like when Galadriel's like looking at him, it's just like, I know the pressure that your dad is putting on you, and you think he's sad and crying because of what he's been thinking about with the ring, but he's actually has this struggle inside with his brother and his father. He knows that his father's lost his fucking mind. We learn that later on, but at the time, he's crying, because of the weight that he has to like to redeem his family and his name and the role that Minas Tirith has. So
Yeah.
he starts crying like, man, he dude can act.
Yeah.
Even his death is real. I mean, he dies a lot, but his
He
death is really good. It
does.
looks like he fucking died. I'm like, man, it looks like he
Those
just.
arrows hitting him like that looks like it fucking hit him. Like
Yep.
he's got a
Yep.
he's got a good range for his death.
Yep.
I had a random question for you.
Okay.
When the Nazgul go to
Yes, love
the
the Nazgul.
they're so badass in like the beginning. When
I
they're
know
at the village or whatever in Bree.
when I watched Force Awakens and
Hmm.
they teased us about the Knights of Ren, I
Yes.
was like, I know where this is going. And then Last Jedi did the same. And again, I love Last Jedi, but they're not even in that movie. I'm like, all right, they're saving them. This is more about Kylo's.
Yeah,
This is about Kylo
I forgot
taking
about
over.
them.
Got it. But then the third one, I'm like, well, surely they're gonna make them like the Nazgul. They're gonna be this menacing guys that are gonna be hunting down, and all this stuff, and are hard to take out. No, they never did that. What a bum fight
It is a
that
very
we get.
anticlimactic. Wait, they're not
Yeah.
even in it.
In what?
Return of the Skywalker? Is that what you're saying?
They are. Yeah, Kylo Ren takes him out in the very end before they all fight Palpatine.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Remember, she like
Yep.
somehow fucking transports a lightsaber because they had to wrap up the movie. And
Hmm. I
but
forgot.
anyway, we
It's
won't
been
get
a
into
while.
that.
I
But
forgot about that.
the Nazgul, man.
So
And there's eight. There's eight of them, by the way. I counted. I had to pause. I'm like counting the horses. There's like one, then there's two, then there's four, then there's eight. There's never nine. The Lich King or Witch
he's
King
always
or
back at
whatever it is.
he's back at the hood at the castle.
Yeah.
Well, when they go into the prancing pony, when they think that the hobbits are standing there,
Oh
they
yeah.
essentially they bust down the door and they murder the gatekeeper, who I feel bad
Oh,
for.
poor
I feel
gatekeeper.
bad for that guy. He just gets wrong
Yeah,
place, wrong
all
time,
those
bro.
people, they're all nice. Oh, they made anything for do a hobbit. Sorry, pardon me.
I forget what he calls them, little masters or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this
Yes,
guy's
little masters.
he's
Yeah.
not a dick. So they just picked the Hobbit room, and like everybody, like they just essentially walk into the bar because I guess everybody's hiding because they're scared of their
Yeah.
presence or whatever. So they
Yeah.
just like murder some pillows, and then they're like, nah, fuck it, we're good. And then they just like
I
leave
know.
town. Like they don't keep checking other
Right.
rooms or looking other places. Or
Meanwhile,
just,
Aragorn's with all the other hobbits with the fucking campfire
they're
going,
across
and
the
he's just
street,
sitting
just
there, and
like
he's
looking
like,
at them.
they used to be human. Yeah. They won't stop. We got to get out of here. I'm like, dude, they might fucking see you. They just like give up way too quick. I thought that too. Way too quick.
Well, that's there's another one off my list. I'm getting these questions answered. I watching it with a critical
I don't know if that's an
eye
answer.
and seeing it's the same conundrum that I had.
How about this? Are there no handrails in Moria? Like when they're running through Moria,
Yes, I
dude,
wrote
and
that down too.
there's like everything is dangerous as fuck. As fuck, dude.
Uh-huh.
And there are no handrails. You're just stone staircases just hanging out. Like, was it made out of wood and they just rotted out? Like, what's going on here?
Like nobody ever
That bridge.
slips
Oh, you're gonna
or
get the bridge of
falls.
Cara Dune. Like, bro, that is a fucking 2 foot wide bridge. What the hell are you doing? Who made that bridge? That's not a bridge.
No, and
It's
they're
a
running
support.
across. They're running across this tiny, tiny little gap as they're just like
Makes
running
no
full
sense.
sprint. Yeah, I wrote that down. Like, why don't sci-fi people care about safety? Essentially.
I got a question for you.
Yeah,
I have
please.
to again it. How did Gandalf get his staff back? So when we see Gandalf, he loses his staff to Saruman in that fight, and he gets thrown up into the ceiling at some point. And then the next time we see Gandalf in that big fight, he's on top of Saruman's tower. No staff. He starts talking to like a moth or whatever, and then eventually the eagle comes and gets him and all that stuff. But when does he get his exact staff back?
I think I'm assuming this is just me. I'm just googling this real quick as
The eagle picked it up on its way.
No, I was guessing he just borrowed one of Elrond's. Like, hey, bro, you got a staff around I can borrow? And he's like, yo, I'm a wizard guy. I'm a wizard too. Elf wizard. Help you back.
Oh, so he just needs like a wooden staff, and it means nothing until he uses it and like enchants it.
They're saying in the wizard staff after escaping Dol Guldur. This is in the Hobbit though. The brown wizard gives Gandalf his staff as a replacement. Although
Gandalf's staffs are like fucking lightsabers in Star Wars, bro. Like, wait, hold on. How did Rey get Luke Skywalker's lightsaber? Whose lightsaber is actually who? So it's interesting.
Yep.
Things you see when you watch this movie so many times.
I think, yeah. one of them breaks in the Bridge of Khazad-dûm when he breaks the bridge. I think this is in the book. Staff is presumably created in Valinor as part of his incarnation as a wizard. Second one is
Sure.
created by Galadriel for him, along with the new white robes. So that would be his new white one. I'm guessing
Yeah.
he probably had to borrow it from Elrond, I would guess.
Because he straight up like Saruman's rolling with two staffs in the first movie though.
He never
But
he never really busts them out again though either, does he?
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That wizard fight
He took
is
Gandalf's.
sweet though.
Oh yeah,
Like the
dude,
one
that's a
thing
great
that
fight. Old men fighting, dude.
I
That was fucking
chuckle
great.
about is like it takes Gandalf so long to figure out that Saruman is like turned bad. He like tries the door, and then he tries the door, and then he tries the
Oh,
door,
I know.
and then he tries the
He's
fourth
like,
door,
oh,
and
that one too.
he's like, oh, now I get it. Like Gandalf, come on, buddy. Like maybe your brain is a little slow from the Hobbit weed, but it shouldn't be that slow, buddy. Come on.
Dude. So have you? We have watched Willow. Literally for this podcast, we have watched Willow.
Mm-hmm.
When the two old ladies fight at the end of that movie, same fight as Gandalf and Saruman.
That is true.
Except it's missing that one scene. She's spinning the one old lady around. Yeah.
Willow magic's a little looser than Lord of the Rings magic, but I mean,
Yeah.
you could see the carryover from Lord of the Rings to Willow, like right there.
Oh God, yeah, of course. Everyone's influenced by Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's talk about Howard Shore for a second here.
Ooh, yeah.
Dude, crushed it.
How good the just the Lord of the Rings theme that carries out throughout all three movies. Then you have like the Shire music, which is pretty, I don't know, pretty
Oh,
recognizable.
I listen to it to relax in life sometime. Like when I get stressed out, there's a few go-to songs, and that Shire song, man, it just hits me, just mellows me out. And that's supposed to, because their life is supposed to be very carefree and simple. They just want to eat and drink and not be bothered, And
that is true. He has put his name on a lot of movies. Going back to 1979, Howard Shore.
What are some of the big movies that he did soundtracks to?
Let's see. There is Big, the 1988 Tom Hanks movie.
Yeah.
The movie Seven, Mrs. Doubtfire, Philadelphia, Silence of the Lambs. What else has he got? Analyze This, Dogma, High Fidelity, Lord of the Rings 2, Gangs of New York, King Kong, The Departed. Like, it's just, there's so many good movies.
So he's been in a lot of known movies, but here's the thing: I don't know how any of those songs go, but I'm sure they're good.
They're probably fine, because a lot of them, like Philadelphia, I always remember that's like a Bruce Springsteen song that's like, in the streets of Philadelphia. Like,
yeah,
that's all I think of. I don't think of Howard Shore when I think of that movie.
Howard Shore must have been dying to do this, because like it's so goddamn good that when somebody's asked him, Peter Jackson or whoever, they're like, "Oi, you want to do this movie?" I don't know what
Peter
accent
Jackson
that was.
sounds like.
Hello, got down under. Do this movie. But yeah, then he's just like, "Oh, do I want to do a fantasy movie, bro? I've been." I got some tunes in mind.
Yeah,
I mean, like, there's just so many good songs in this movie.
I don't know how you how you come up with something like that. Like, what is the process?
Like the Urkai. It's just like sounds like metal and menacing and
composed, orchestrated, and conducted, and produced the film's trilogy.
Dude is the man.
Like,
all he knew this was his Star Wars. He's like, I know. I gotta bring it.
So Howard Shore visited the set in 1999 and composed a version of the Shire theme and Frodo's theme before Jackson even began shooting.
Oh, okay, so he was there mentally. Good. Yeah, I mean, it just the stars in Middle Earth aligned, and they gave us this gift, which is called The Lord of the Rings, and
It's so
it
there's
starts
so
off
many
with one
different
of the
things
best
that
movies I've ever seen.
come
Hmm.
together. He says he included over 50. Do you know what a leitmotif
Is it one of
is?
those harpsichord? Or,
Well, it's a short recurring musical phrase. So that's like
oh,
the recurring like Shire theme or the recurring Urukai
yeah,
theme or stuff like that. There's over 50 different ones that he had to put together for this movie, which it seems like a lot. It's like, every person, place, or thing has to have like its own little kind of thing to go with it. So it's
dude. I don't know how anything gets like this gets made because there's so many cuts, there's so many scenes, there's so many sets, there's so many characters, so much song, so many songs, so many backdrops, so many lines, so many just the shots alone, just like the there's so many wide shots. And it's not like they had
they didn't have
drones back
drones
then,
back
so
then.
they had
Yes,
to use,
thank you.
yeah,
It's got to be
yeah, they had to use
helicopter
like
shots or
yeah. There's a
there's
cool scene um when they got in the water for something and it was wobbling a little bit. Oh, it was the third act when they got to those giant statues with the hands sticking
mm-hmm.
out. Was that Numenor or where? Not I don't know where they were.
It's just going to, after they leave Lothlorien.
Yeah, but when they get that place in the water and like, which is funny because again, whenever they get to a place whenever they get to a place, they act like, "Oh, I didn't see it there." Like the mines of Moria. It's like it's like 50 feet in front of us, and you're just like, "Oh, I didn't even see it." But we were just talking, and then they did the assist. They're like in the boat, and all of a sudden, they're like, "Oh, I haven't been here and I haven't seen these in so long, or whatever." And it's just like humans made this, and they're just like just realizing they're there. But anyways, the shot though is just so cool. Just the scale of them in the water and these three boats, and
Those are
then there's like
huge
these giant
sets.
things, and the camera is just like wobbling a little bit. And I was just like, man, that every shot,
There are
everything looks thought out, and
so
you
many
know,
cool shots. The one that kind of like wowed me was at the end when the Urukai are fighting. Boromir tries to take the ring. Frodo pieces out.
mhm.
Aragorn's fighting, and then Legolas
Oh
and
yeah,
Gimli show up to help him out, and then they hear the boop 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 horn go off.
oh the Horn of
Yep,
Gondor.
horn of Gondor, and
Hmm.
they say, "Oh shit, he must be in trouble," and then it like pans, but it pans away and it cuts like up, almost like a helicopter taking off, and you're like looking almost down on Urukai, just like running through the woods and down
Yes,
hills. There's
dude,
so
get
many
amped up.
actors going on this. Then they
Yes,
crest over hill, and it's all in one smooth shot. They crest over the hill, and then they come back down, and Boromir's over here on the other side of the hill, and he's still in like mid fight thing, like taking dudes out.
right.
Like that is an amazing shot that kind of puts. There's so many different moving pieces there, and so many parts to it that, I mean, that one kind of melted my brain a little bit when I saw it. I don't know if they're using like giant camera rigs that are flying up. They can't be using helicopters because they're in a forest. There's no drones yet. They're doing all
Right.
this like legit physical filmmaking. You're not, there's nothing to be fake there, but you
I think that's what people prefer with this movie opposed to The Hobbit, because that definitely was in a very heavy CG era where this was, I mean,
they don't use it much.
George Lucas was
Wow.
pushing what episodes
No.
1, 2, and 3 with like the 3D environments. It's like, hey, we can do full movies with
Mm-hmm.
CG and make it look pretty good. But he was really the pioneer there. So this movie's being made right along the side that at this era. This is 2000, but it was probably started in 99, right? So they were even more practical at that point, but it
There's
paid
certain
off.
parts you can tell when like Gandalf shows up to Sauron's and he's like walking down the steps. You can tell that Sauron's walking down a green screen steps, and you can see like the background looks really flat.
Oh, yeah,
There's like
yeah.
bits and pieces in there
I'll
like
forgive a
that, but
24-year-old movie,
yeah,
especially with
yes.
with everything that it got right. I will let some stuff go. There's some
Mm-hmm.
shots that are like, yeah, yeah, but like come on, like there's stuff that comes out today. Cough, cough. The chase scene in Book of Boba Fett.
Oh
I
yeah, we
mean,
don't
like,
we don't want to think about
you
that.
know, and that's 20 plus
They're
years after. So I mean,
they're
it's
all
just
over. I started watching Two Towers, and like Gollum doesn't like, and we're watching it in 4K now, which is probably
mhm.
upscaled from what they filmed with back then.
I was wondering, could or should we be optimizing the Lord of the Rings just because it's so perfect and special?
Just
Do you
redoing the
do the
special
George Lucas
effects
thing where like you no don't yes, carefully crisp out and clean
carefully.
up, update and refine. I don't know if we could. It's a lot of work. I'm not saying like
So you're
battle
saying,
scenes. They don't,
as long as we don't take out Yub Nub, I'm good. That's a it's an
there's no
integral
yub
part of the
nub to take
movie.
out. Right. That like Pippin's song or whatever.
Yeah, the gross
Like,
tomato eating scene. That's what Boromir was really sad about. Was that his dad eats tomatoes like a freak,
oh
like a
God.
slob.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. We'll have to get in. We'll have to do an episode on the Towers and Return of the King, of
At some
course.
point, yeah.
Uh,
I'm
this is
gonna.
just
I already
but
started Two Towers again, and I'm 20 minutes into it because I couldn't just. You can't just stop. Like it seems like I always watch these in
with
like
that
default.
ending,
Yeah.
right? That ending is
Knowing
I
that.
remember like, what the fuck? What the fuck? It's ending now? Like, come on, we just lost a guy. Let's get some revenge. You know?
That's. I mean, that's how I. Well, I felt that kind. It's kind of the way I wasn't too thrilled about the new Into the Spider Verse movie, because guess what? It just ends on to be continued, and you're like, well, what the fuck,
Oh,
dude? Like
really? Cliffhanger?
nobody tells you like that it's. But this one, it's a 3-book series. You can kind of figure it out after you
If
know a
you
little
know
bit
that going
more.
in,
Yeah,
sure.
you're
And
going
it's
in
a good name.
blind.
It's called the Fellowship of the Ring, and it really is the beginning and ending of the Fellowship. The Fellowship ends at the end of this movie, you know.
Not if we
And I
stay
love
true to each other.
well, right, but they still got to go and get Merry and Pip and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
like, I love how everybody realizes just by looking at each other what's going on. Like Aragorn's like, I would have followed you to the end. You know, it's just like
Legolas
you
doesn't
knew
know
that Frodo
shit.
decided that.
Legolas
No,
is
he
like,
didn't know.
come on, let's go get him on the other shore. And
Let's go get
Aragorn's
him.
like, dude, come on, let's fucking.
He's just like sharpening his knife. No,
Nah,
no,
I
dude,
don't think so,
no,
bro, no.
no.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's
Sam, and then I remember in the movie the first time I watched it, when Sam goes after Frodo, and he starts drowning, and then the way he like goes in the water, I was just like already emotional about like Gandalf or Gandalf. I was emotional about Boromir. I was like, are they also killing off
no
Sam in
way,
this
Sam.
movie? Like, I could not handle it. But no, his hand comes down, and they get that extra second, and
Yeah,
you know, he
just
pulls
an
himself
extra.
off. Like, I made a promise. I made a promise to wash after you, and I'll keep it. I'm Samwise
That's
Gamgee.
that's why we love it, because we get to do those dumb accents more and more.
Oh, the accents are good. Yeah.
I
Um,
it's
do you have
all
any?
there's just so much good stuff. Like every part of it's kind of iconic. Like there's so many iconic parts to this movie that it's kind of cemented itself as like, I don't know, the greatest fantasy movie of all time, essentially.
Yes,
Trilogy at least.
at
Yes.
least trilogy, and then everybody has their favorites, of course. And
Yeah.
every one of them, I can never argue with anybody. My favorite's Return of the King. Mine's is Two Towers. Like,
Well,
yeah,
Return of the King, you're
yeah.
wrong. First off,
What?
it's
Dude,
either
that's a good
between Two
movie.
Towers or Fellowship. That's it. And I was thinking about it. Two Towers starts off fast, and it goes like, you got that Helm's Deep battle scene, which is like a fucking hour long. Like there's
Yeah.
so
Hey, don't
much that
forget Man
happens.
Flesh. Man Flesh.
Yeah, and that one, the extended version is 350. So it's almost a
Oh,
full
okay.
4 hours of Lord of the Rings. Like I could
Well, how
see
long was the
absolutely
extended
why
version?
people say Two Towers.
Yeah, I think they're all 3 something hours,
340,
right?
3 something.
But
Yeah.
the Return of the King is like 4.5.
Is it really?
Yeah,
That's a lot. That's a lot of rings.
right. Because you have the Minas Tirith fight
Yes,
in
that is a
that one,
big. That is a
and
big
you
one.
got all the characters coming together at that point. And then you learn more about Schmeagol in the beginning of that one, I think. Um, it's just
Well,
so good. It's so good, and it's funny because like how many fantasy books are out there, right? But this one,
plenty.
in Game of Thrones, but this one in Game of Thrones, but this one specifically,
I mean,
really connected with the the mass population, and people really like it, and it's just the storytelling. I don't know. I mean, like you started with the Hobbit, and that just took off, but
well, yeah, the
I don't know
Hobbit.
these.
Hobbit came out in 1937 for, I guess, for bookkeeping here. Lord of the Rings is 1954.
Yeah,
So fit like
I think it's
50s. Like that's Impressive. And then the Silmarillion was 77. There's something called Unfinished Tales that came out in 80.
Okay.
I'm not a collection of
Can't know
stories
what
and
those are.
essays that were never completed during his lifetime, but were edited by his son Christopher Tolkien and published in
Mm-hmm.
1980. Huh. Oh
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, there's just so much to. That's the thing that's great about this is like this world is so like overly fleshed out where there's like full history books on the history of the whole thing and the creation of the planet and the gods of the planet and how the gods created the things on the planet, and then everybody kind of smashes together and happy story at the end.
I'm just realizing we totally skipped over elves, other than Elrond and Legolas, but like
All around fucked up.
Steven Tyler's daughter made her debut in this.
She was
She
in
did a
stuff
pretty good
before
job.
this, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was in that like store vinyl record movie. I'm trying to blank on it right now.
Armageddon was in
Empire Records.
1998.
Yeah, Armageddon. Yeah, Armageddon.
Empire
Empire
Records is
Records,
talking
and
about,
then
yeah.
like Aerosmith music videos.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a big deal for her to get this epic movie, and she did a good job with the role.
Fantastic.
I
She
thought it
looks
was
like an
really
elf.
cool. She looks
She
like an
looked like
elf.
she does.
Yep. I love the elves in this movie. They feel very alien but beautiful and weird at the same time. I thought that was captured elves very well there.
The effects that they use on them, like how they all kind of have this glowy
Glow,
shimmeriness to them.
smoothness,
Yeah,
yes,
they
and the
they
music is always perfectly.
they portray them very well. Some of the things that they did with like Lady Galadriel, like they had a specific lighting rig for her because this is
Oh,
how in
okay.
depth they get, because they knew they were going to do close up shots. They didn't want the reflections in her eyes to be the same as other people's eyes, so they had these things called Galadriel lights, which are essentially like kind of like Christmas lights behind a thing. So if you look at the reflection in her eyes, it's supposed to replicate like the stars. So she's got like lots of little different
No
points of lights,
shit.
and
Okay.
like that's how in depth like these people got into this shit. Like they're like, I think we should come up with a new lighting rig for just this one scene for this one person's eyes, and like it's
She's one of the
so
most
well thought
important
out.
characters. Yeah, yeah. Um, I remember when I first watched this, and I still feel the same way every time when she's tested with the ring.
Yeah.
I always laugh a little bit. It's not that the CG is bad; it's fine. It's just a weird artistic creation
She
because
goes
she or
green for
artistic creation. Yeah, and like black and green is it's just like
she goes. It's like a negative essentially. Like it swaps the
yes,
black and the white, and
yeah.
but yes, she does get a little
It's just
boisterous in that
funny,
scene. You would have a queen. Like
dude. It's
we get it, lady. And she passed the
yeah.
test.
So like when I said early on in the this recording where he can do campy, I feel like that's kind of campy. I think like when Bilbo like turns into like a little like Gollum like monster for a hot second, it just comes out of nowhere. It's a jump scare.
It's a
It
good
maybe
jump
not a jump
scare.
scare, but
It
yeah,
is.
it's a
Yeah.
jump scare. Yeah. But it's a sweet jump scare because like poor guy didn't mean to do that, and it's so
Like
sad
a
after.
crackhead.
But
Just a crackhead moment.
yeah, 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 those jump scare, and then when Gandalf like comes out of the shadows and where's the ring? Is it safe? It's
When
just
he,
shit.
like even when he goes to touch it on the ground, it does a jump scare with the eye that
Oh
flashes
yeah,
up. Like
and he
like
knows.
there's
Whoa, that was Sauron.
that's not
Oh shit.
good. Yeah, there's a lot of those like different techniques that they use throughout the movie,
I
which makes Frodo's kind of a when you think about it, Frodo's kind of a shitty ring bearer. Like how many times does he try and just fucking give the ring away? Like Lady Galadriel, you want it? No. Gandalf, you want it? No. Aragorn, you want it? No, no. And the only person he wouldn't let have it is Boromir, and then, but he does for the first movie. I think he tries to give it away like 3 or 4 different times to different people. Like,
Well, I was also thinking
whatever.
like, how many times can the dude be stabbed and do the face, dude? It's like slow motion.
Which one?
Because
It's
so the Nazgul stab him
okay, yeah, that was more of a
because,
yelp.
but he got stabbed and he's
Yeah.
like, oh, all right, fine,
Ah! Yeah.
yeah. And then the cave troll does the same thing and it stabs
Well,
him.
that's in the gut. That one was a rough one.
Yeah, and he had the
Mithril.
mithril
Mithril.
mithril
I can't
mithril.
roll it.
Um, yeah, he's got that armor on. And then if you watch the Return of the King, he's attacked by Shelob.
Yep. Oh yeah, he
Same
gets
thing.
jacked there. Which
You know, he
there
does like that.
is there is theory that there's there's an internet theory that Shelob stabs him in the dick, which is a whole different story because you think about it, he's wearing the mithril armor, so his chest and his thing is completely protected. Like Shelob isn't stabbing through mithril. So is she stabbing him in the ass? Is she stabbing him in the ball? Like it's got to be below the belt
Oh, the tape.
somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a whole different story. When we get to Return of the King, we can go through that kind of section. But
That is the question.
yep,
Where did Frodo get stabbed
got
by
stabbed in the
Shelob?
dick, yo. It's the most delicate of areas. So I guess we'll never
One
know.
last thing I'm gonna say.
Hmm.
Anybody that knows me knows that my favorite video game of all time
Mm-hmm.
is called Lord of the Rings: Battle for Middle Earth 2.
Two.
2, the second game.
Not the
Yeah.
first one.
And my God, I love this. It's a real-time strategy game that was popular-ish on the 360, PC, and PS3. I believe it was on PS3. It might not have been, but I think so. I had it for Xbox 360. They shut the servers down, can't play it online anymore, but I think you can do some magic to maybe get it to work on the PC in some capacity. I think Dave tried this. But anyways,
It does.
that game,
It's all right here on this screen.
it has, but the music and sound production of that video game is pulled from the Lord of the Rings,
Mm-hmm.
Fellowship of the Ring. So
How could you not?
when I'm watching this movie, I reminisce of the video game, and I just get so emotional when I watch this video game because like I played the hell out of that game online, and I miss playing it online, and I don't know, it's just like I can't play it anymore because they shut the servers down. So when I watch this movie, it makes me think of that game, and it takes me to another era of my life, early to mid 2000s specifically. Um, so I don't know. That doesn't happen
Those
too
are
much
good.
when I watch stuff or whatever, but like that happened when I watched it. I'm like,
There
oh man, I
those
remember all these
PS2
lines during the
PS2
game.
action games, like those were so
Yeah,
good.
that too.
Like they ended up doing the what are the Mordor games? Shadow of Mordor?
Yeah,
That the newer ones? Like
yeah,
those
but
were
you don't
fairly
know. Like,
solid.
yep,
They
I love the games are great, but like the characters, I'm not connected
yeah,
to
that's true.
because it's like not Elrond and it's not Aragorn, but they're like that's who they are basically. They're totally just
Kinda.
using those characters to make that game.
That is true. There is a lot. I have one last dumb question for us before we cut out and
Please,
we start testing your real knowledge.
okay,
So Liv Tyler, she's got Frodo, he's all sick and stabbed, and the dudes are coming across the river,
yeah,
and she does her little magic spell, and she
horse water
makes the
thing.
horse water come and get them. What happens to the wraiths after they get washed on the river? Do they die? Do
I
the
think they're
horses
weakened.
die? Do they like
I think the
do
horses
they
probably
respawn
died.
back at the checkpoint with like one hit point?
I think the horses died because they're like a mount. Like if you ever play a video game, you have your main character and then
Sure.
you have your mount, which is so I think the horses are dead mounts, right? I don't think they are as strong on their own. So I think the
Uh-huh.
Nazgul just got weakened and they had to be like revived or whatever. Because you see them later on the oh
The
god,
dragon
what are
thing?
those things? Fell beasts. They
The
call
big
fell
dragon.
beasts.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
I know this because they are units in that video game I was talking about. So
Oh,
you
I
can
was
yeah.
I was just thinking of them all like just like washing up on shore and just standing up and they're all like fucking soaking wet and they're like, "Oh my god, this sucks." And then they just have to like their horses are dead, so they got to like walk back to wherever they're going and they're in
Right,
the
but
middle
they're
of
like
fucking
whispering, like,
nowhere.
"God damn it! No, we're soaking wet now,
Oh,
yeah."
my socks and my shoes are all wet. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. Fuck.
Yeah,
Those poor guys. I
yeah.
figured
They survive
they
because they're in the
just
later.
well yeah they just I figure they either getting respawned back at base with one hit point. They gotta sit there
Probably in that
until they
yeah,
boost
because they're not in
themselves
the
back
second
up.
movie. I don't think in any way, right? They're not in Two Towers.
It might be when they're like crossing the marsh, or when they're. You might see them on the fell beast
Okay.
then, or something like
Fell
that.
base at that point?
Something
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
Or when
Yeah.
they're
I
leaving
think they
the.
just
See the Witch King when they're all leaving the tower. I
Yeah,
don't know.
well,
I don't know if that's in 2 or 3,
I think
but
it's
yeah,
probably just like an obvious
you're
thing.
right.
It's just like, yo, I sent 8 of you guys and you went on a horse. I told you not to do the horses, but you did the horses thing. And what
Mm-hmm.
happened? You came across water.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened? You tried to cross it. And what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Elvin fucking did the horse.
Well,
I fucking told you
I
guys.
know,
So don't
Dad.
fucking tell me. Don't tell me you know what you're doing. All right. So that's why I stayed back because somebody has to. I would have been dead because you fucking morons. So now
Mm-hmm.
when you leave here, you're going on fell beasts, not fucking horses, not fucking cave trolls, no fell beasts. You hear me? And they'll
Makes
go,
sense.
yeah, we hear you. You know, and then they do. That's probably what happened.
That's an acceptable answer. That is an answer I can accept.
Yeah,
I
they got scolded when they got back.
slapped on the hand.
And get out of here because you're fucking wet still. You smell like
Go to
water.
your room.
Eh,
Well, the fact
elvish
that
water.
they can't they can't get the horses because I forget where it was. Somebody said that they wouldn't sell horses to Mordor or something like. I feel bad for those bloody beat up horses. They look nasty. That is a story for another day. All right, well, Eric, we miss you, but it was really fun to talk about Lord of the Rings for if I can just geek out for an hour because these movies, they are kind of the perfect culmination of fantasy movie.
What a
There's
fantasy story can be and what a movie can be, and then together. I was just like,
uh-huh.
thank you, everyone that made it. I mean, like, mwah, it
The
is like,
thousands and thousands of people that put their hands into this cookie jar and
yes.
pulled out a beautiful, beautiful gem of a movie. So, all right, let's take a quick break, refresh your drinks. We'll come back and keep it on brand. We'll do a little bit of Lord of the Rings trivia. We'll see what kind of things you can come up with. We will be back right after this. And we're back, my lords and my ladies, to do a quick little round of Lord of the Rings
Dave.
trivia. See
Okay.
how much Brandon knows about the series. I think these are from all the movies, and I'm assuming these are from the books. So we're using
Okay. I'm
funtrivia.com.
no expert, but I have spent my time watching and playing video games in this world. So
There's a lot of mixed, easy ones.
is this multiple choice by any chance?
No.
Oh, okay.
A lot of mixed, difficult and easy ones in here. So depending on what
All right, we'll see how I do. All right, wish me luck, everybody.
We'll give you best of 5. We'll see how we go here. All right.
Okay.
Choose a number between 1 and 40. You will decide. You will determine your own fate here, Mr. Brandon Baggins.
24.
4. Good number. Good number. Okay. He stepped on a piece of glass, hurting his foot and delaying shooting of a scene in The Fellowship of the Ring. This actor
I don't know.
stepped on something.
That ain't a. I thought that's a Lord of the Rings like lore question. That's a fucking production thing. How am I supposed to know that?
Oh, that one's a tough
Can
one.
I get a real question that's like about the movie or the world, or are they production questions? That's like a shot in the dark.
I'll give you number 25 here. The answer
All
was
right.
Samwise Gamgee, played by Sean Astin.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know.
Dominic Monaghan also stepped on a splinter during the Buckleberry Ferry scene, and all the cast makes fun of him because he said it was a huge splinter in his foot, and they pulled it out, and it was like a tiny little baby splinter in his foot. So they all make fun of Dominic in it. All right, this quote from the movie: "Fill in the blank."
Okay.
I do not know what blank is in my blood. This is from Fellowship of the Ring.
Okay. I do not know what blank is in my blood.
Yes. But I swear, I will not let the White City fall. I'll give you that little extra juicy tidbit.
So that's Aragorn talking to Boromir as he dies.
That is correct.
I do not know what blank is in my blood.
Yep.
Okay,
He's
so
got HIV.
we all know it's red is the color, so he knows what color it is. So it wouldn't be like I do not know what color is in my blood, but
Remember,
I do not know what race is in my blood.
he is
Maybe that
he
because
is
he's a mix of like elvish and he has some elvish
he's
in him. That's why he's
one of the bloodlines from
Numenorians.
Numenor. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So what are you gonna go with?
So
You don't know what racism?
race, race.
I do not know what strength is in my blood, but I swear I will
Oh,
not let the White City.
okay, fair.
Strength.
All right, okay.
Strength. What we're
That's a
looking
better.
for there.
I have a chance of getting that right. The
Yeah.
other one is just like a shot in the dark.
That was a tough one. All right. Another number between 1 and 40.
5.
Number 5.
What was the name of the cameraman in the? Like I don't know.
Some of these are tough. I'll go to the one before. Oh, this is an easy one.
Why don't you just tell me what movie you want to see?
I know. Well, unless you know what famous animator created the Lord of the Rings animated movie.
No,
No. Okay.
no, I probably should know that, but I don't.
What is the relationship between Frodo and Sam? How does Frodo know Sam?
Like they didn't go to high school together, is what you're saying. So,
No,
like,
they
are they?
didn't. They're
Um,
Are they co-worker? Like I don't even really know what Frodo does for a living. Just a fucking seems like he's just reading books and smoking weed in the forest, just hanging out, eating all Bilbo's
he
food.
definitely just graduated high school and has not done anything with his life yet. That's the vibe I get.
No.
I don't know. They're
This one you should know. This one is relatively
uh, I remember somebody's a cousin once removed, but I think that was Pippin saying that shit. I'm trying to think. Um,
What is Sam doing when Gandalf catches him?
well, he's tending to the garden. He says he's like gardening, but like that's what he is to himself. His gardener.
That's your answer? I don't know.
What's his relation? As in,
Yeah,
how do they know each
how do
other?
they know each other? They're not Eskimo brothers.
Was that what it is? Is it his fucking landscaper? His gardener?
That
I'll
is
just go with that because you gave me that
that
hint.
is correct. It is Sam is
All right, you
Frodo's
gave me that one.
gardener.
I was just gonna go fucking cousin.
No.
I feel like they're all related to each other over there, but
I mean, yeah, you grew up in a community that small. There's got to be some sort of weird stuff going on, I guess. Um, let's see. Let's give you another one here. I won't even ask you the.
yeah, just find the real questions
What is
that
the
I have a
name?
chance to.
What is the name of the book that Bilbo is writing? You're at 1 and 1 right now. We give you one win, one loss.
There and back again. Hobbit, an unexpected journey. I think it's called There and Back Again. He writes that out. There and Back Again, but that could have been the chapter, like his Fellowship of the Ring, an unexpected journey, or is it the other way around? God, I know how it ends, and he lived happily ever after. That's what he says again, and then he
Till
walks.
the end of
So
their
I know how it ends.
days.
To the end of their days, yeah. Um, yeah, There and Back Again,
Colon.
an unexpected journey. No, a Hobbit's Tale. I don't know.
I'll give it.
There
to
and
you.
Back Again is the name of the book.
Yeah.
Colon, a Hobbit's Tale. I don't know.
That is correct. There you go.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
you talked it out. You got it.
All right.
It's yeah.
Okay.
Seems like a good book. I would read that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds interesting. One thing I always liked is the geography of like the maps and like reading the books and like seeing like, oh, they went from here on the map over to here on the map and then down to here on
That's what I'm
like
saying.
part of that, like that, it's all so well thought out and there's just
And and it's his book that we see because the camera pulls away from it at one point. But in the beginning, when we're showing you the world, you can see the two trilogies. You can see where like they explore the Misty Mountains or like fucking Minas Tirith and Mordor and the Shire, and it's just like, yeah, it's so cool seeing all this stuff. It just
It kind of is.
feels like a real world.
Okay. Let's see. Let's give you a good one here. Some of these are a little too tough for you. Like Bilbo's birthday is 111th birthday. What year is it in Shire years?
2,500 and something. I don't know. I have no idea.
The year is 1400.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Who is the first person to arrive in the council for Elrond?
Oh, that's a good one.
Who do we first see arrive? Elrond also has a twin brother called Elros. They're the sons of Arundel and Elwing. Like, there's so much alliteration in these people's names. Cimmerillion is fucking so hard to read. But.
So you're saying, is it Gimli, Boromir, or
who arrives first for the Council of
Elrond or Legolas? I want to say.
Well, there's other people that show up.
Yeah, but together that opens up. It shows no namers that we have no idea of. But the key characters is like, hey, here's Gimli and the other dwarves. Here's Boromir and like two other humans, and then here's Legolas and like two other elves. So which of those is shown first to arrive? I think it's Boromir.
That is correct. There you go.
Yeah.
Because
if Legolas showed up first, you would have thought it's just another fucking elf that lives in town. So that makes no sense. And I feel like you wouldn't start off with it. I feel like you wouldn't start off with
from the east side.
Yeah. So and I feel like you wouldn't go with a dwarf because, like, yeah, it's not an elf, but we need something like total visitor. So let's get another human in here because they don't live here. So that's why I wanted Boromir. That was my rationale,
nice.
At least.
Well, congratulations.
That was only 4 questions.
You got 3 right. You won. You want one more just for shits and giggles?
Yeah, I might. Well, I want to see if I can
give
get
me another number.
No, 1. I don't know.
1. Back up. Okay, here we go. In the Fellowship of the Ring, what is the name of the ferry the hobbits used to escape the Black Riders?
I was like, what is the name of the horse that Bill Sam sends away before they go in the Moria? And it was Bill. What was the name of the ferry? Old Man River. Oh man, what was it? It was like old.
Was it Pippin or was it one of the?
No, it was
one
Mary.
Of the other two. Mary, yeah, Mary's the one that says it. He says, I can see him in my brain saying it right now.
Yeah. In my head it's just like Old Man Ferry. I don't know.
I need to get out of the Shire.
Yeah.
Buckleberry Ferry.
Buckleberry Ferry. Buckleberry Ferry. This is crooked mouth.
Mary knows exactly where to fucking go. Get out here.
He's not as dim-witted as Pippin. Pippin's definitely
Pippin's a dipshit. Like
he just wants to smoke weed and eat like elven bread.
Yeah, he puts.
How many did you eat? 4.
Kind of shit do you take after you like eating that much elven bread? You just take this massive elf dump. Do elf dumps smell better because their elven food doesn't? Because they're so pretty. Ooh. I can't imagine elf shit smelling bad. I don't know.
What is elf shit? Do they use toilet paper? Do they use cloth?
They seem like bidets.
Do they have elvish bidets?
They have to have an elvish bidet. They wipe with fancy leaves. And then they thank,
like elvish, like
and then
music.
They thank the leaf for its service, and then they float it down a river or something like that.
It's probably
seems like the elvish way to wipe.
Okay. Speaking of being sent down, I was like, all right, why didn't they just bury Boromir?
No,
they like put the guy in a boat because it looks cool above with like a sword over him, but then he like gets sent over this water, and it's just like, dude, he's just gonna be eaten by like fish down there and crab.
Well, and then Faramir in the next movie finds the horn or whatever broken, but I'm assuming they found his body just floating down the river. How did he stay afloat or going over the waterfall and then end up just like
Sure.
cruising on down the river? I
Right.
don't know. It's just another one of those questions that we have about Lord of the Rings. So many dumb questions that we have answered today. So, I guess let's get us out of here. This is usually where I call in Eric and he just spouts off all the ways
Yeah.
that you can follow us and
Follow
find
us
us.
on our. If you type the words "the Nomads of Fantasy" or "Nomads at Fantasy,"
It's of
you will
fantasy.
find us on pretty much anything: TikTok, a website,
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and I'll be honest, Twitter. But we don't. I don't know. The best place to find
Don't go to
us, I would
Facebook.
say, and engage with us is either YouTube or our Discord.
Yeah.
We have an active Discord. Go there. Again, the nomadsoffantasy.com. There's a big purple button waiting for you. It says Discord. Click that, and we'll be happy to welcome you to our kingdom,
Absolutely.
which is not much of a
Come
kingdom.
talk some
It's really
Fallout
just
with
a
me.
chill area. Yeah.
It's always
Talk about anything, honestly.
Yeah, fucking A.
But we have a bunch of categories. We have an active community, and yeah, we love talking about anything from food to video games to Lord of the Rings. So,
Until
who wants
then,
to
yeah.
close this?
Oh,
Yeah.
I want to do it. All right. Well, until next time when we watch Lord of the Rings, which is hopefully not too long, because I'm gonna have to watch all three of them now, because you can't start one and not finish them.
Well, there goes 12 hours of my life.
Yep. Fuck. Until we head to Mordor again. Safe travels. Nomads. Peace out.
You have my sword.
And my axe.